Hi everyone, Tim the Plane Man here, and welcome back to Plane Time ArduPlane PixRacer Flight Controller Edition. What a mouthful, but that's what we're here to do. I have just spent my long weekend when I had planned to spend some time working on building my Sopwith Camel, and I didn't even touch it because I started out by saying, okay, I'm going to figure out how to connect up the PixRacer on Saturday morning, and it's Monday evening now, and well, finally it works, but it took me 3 days. So hopefully, if I can explain this, maybe I can save some of you a little bit of grief and help you get this amazing piece of equipment to work. It really is quite incredible. So let me show you what I have. The first thing that I have is that I bought a kit. I'll post the details of this. Actually, there's a link to my blog in the description, and make sure to hit show more on the description, because the description shows like about 2 lines of information, and there's an awful lot more. If you have to hit the show more in order to be able to see all the information, all the links. And the channels links into the video. Now you can do this on the timeline on the video, and I'll put the channel tags into the video so you can jump to the pieces that are more interesting for you. But you can also see that by just jumping to particular spots in the video by hitting the link in the show more, so in the description. So it's all there in the description, but this is something you really need to see to get it, and it really is quite interesting. So what I did was I bought a PixRacer R15, and I bought a kit or a combo pack that was not just the PixRacer itself, which if you've seen some of the videos from some of the other guys online, you know, it can come naked with just the board, and you maybe have to do a bunch of soldering to connect everything up and pick up a bunch of other bits, and it all seems a little bit overwhelming. Well, this kit, the one that I'm linking to, includes everything. Everything is pre-soldered and ready to go, including the cables and all of the components, except that I added servos and a motor, which is what you would want to plug this into in a plane anyway. So everything relating to the servos, a motor, and a receiver. So a servos, a motor, and a receiver is what you would normally have in a plane. Now you have servos, motor, and a receiver, and all of this other stuff. So all of this other stuff is what we're going to get to work. So the PixRacer itself, this is it here, and it comes pre-installed in a little case with an SD card in the side, and it's basically ready to go. All of the sockets and the connectors are ready for you to plug in all the equipment, which comes, and the link that I'm giving you has several different options. And make sure, if you want to get this package, buy the most expensive one, because it will include everything, and if you don't, you'll probably want to have to come back and buy it later anyway. So what you get is you get the PixRacer, and you get this little board that's hanging off the top here. This is a Wi-Fi module that enables you to connect to the PixRacer using Wi-Fi. So once you've got the controller in your plane and you've got your computer sitting nearby ready to get it working, you can just connect via a computer or your phone, actually, or a tablet. You can just connect to the flight controller using your computer, using Wi-Fi. Now you can also use the USB connector that comes out of the box, and I used the USB connector to get it running, and that plugs into the little USB socket in the side of the PixRacer right here, and I use that to get it going. And the video for that is, you know, I'll be posting that as well, possibly even part of this video, we shall see. And I'll show you how I got to this point, which is what I did to, you know, flash the EEPROM, sorry, with the latest version, the latest stable version of ArduPlane, which is 4.0.9, and how to calibrate the device and configure everything. But what this particular video is about is how to connect everything together so that it will work. And I found that a challenge, and I did figure it out, so I thought if I share it, maybe that will help someone else. Maybe it will help you. So, but please ask questions in the comments. I'm happy to answer it if I know. And the last thing I want to say before I dive in, I'll just say this is the happy path. I've chosen the easiest, quickest, and simplest way to get this working. I haven't done anything fancy. I'm not choosing any other options, and I haven't tried to figure those things out. And I may well do that, and I may well post videos, which if you subscribe you'll see. But for now, what you're going to see is just the quickest and simplest and easiest way to get a flight controller, the PixRacer R15, up and running and operating. So what we have, I'll just quickly show you what I have on the board. What I have on the board is a plane. See the arrow here? This is facing forwards. This is the plane. And so if you can imagine, there's wings here. This is the front of the plane. This is the motor. And we've got our elevator and rudder at the back. So we've got our elevator and rudder servos to control that. We've got ailerons here with, assuming we're going to run ailerons off a single servo, and they will be controlled somehow through that single servo. So this is your plane. This is forward. The PixRacer is laid out on the board in the middle with the little PixRacer arrow pointing forward. So that's the front. And now the question is, well, how do I connect everything up? And let's start with the components that you get out of the box with the PixRacer. The Wi-Fi module here, which plugs into a little, there's 8 pins on the back of the Wi-Fi module, and there's a little 10-pin socket. And so the Wi-Fi module is basically needs to be installed to the back, as far back as possible, using the first 8 pins counting from the back. So the 2 pins at the front are left empty, and you'll see from the web page that that is how it's supposed to be. They actually have little X's over those 2 sockets to say don't plug anything in here, plug it into the last 4 rows, 8 sockets at the back. The next thing we've got is a GPS. So this thing comes with an M8N GPS module. This is why they call the package the 8NN package. So GPS is included with the cable, with the connector in to plug directly into the GPS socket that is labeled. If I turn that over, it actually says GPS on the back, just against that socket at the back there. The next one is this. This was really, really important. This is a safety buzzer, so safety switch and buzzer, and nothing works unless you press to activate this safety switch. It's a really good idea. You can't arm the PixRacer. You can't do anything with it. Nothing will happen once you've got it, in the plane and ready to go, unless you plug in that that safety switch and press the safety switch before you arm the plane. Actually, even before you arm the plane. Definitely before, and maybe even after. The plane won't work unless it's armed and the safety switch is on. Let me put it that way. Not sure if order matters, actually. But the plane will not work if you don't have that connected and the safety switch on. That was one of the most important lessons I learned through this. I thought I had everything working, and the motor wouldn't start. The reason why is I hadn't bothered to plug in the safety switch, because I thought, this is just a demo. I don't need the safety switch. I'm not putting it in a plane. I thought it seemed to be optional from what I read, so I didn't connect it in. Well, apparently it might well be optional, but if it is, you have to set some setting somewhere that I haven't figured out in order to say, don't worry about the safety switch. Well, I thought the easiest thing was to just plug it in and use the safety switch, because I got it, it's there, the wires are there, it's out of the box. So I plugged it in, and things started working. So that was like revelation, the first real revelation there. The next one is really quite important, is how the power works. So Again, out of the box, this comes with the 3DR power module, and it's pre-soldered with XT60 connectors, a male and female on one on each end, designed specifically so that you can plug your battery in one end and plug in your ESC and your motor at the other end. Now, just so you know what's going on here, I've actually used a tiny little ESC just for demo purposes, so I haven't used a fully fledged 30 amp ESC. This is a little 5 amp ESC and a tiny little 1S 2S motor, that an MM1104 motor that I use on my little planes, and I'm just using it just to demo, so I'm driving that motor, that ESC and that motor from a battery. But this is how you would do it in a real plane, or in a real plane, because we're building a plane here. And so and you must use this 3DR power module with the PixRacer. So if you didn't buy the kit that includes that, then you're going to have to buy one, and you probably end up having to solder it. But this kit comes with it soldered with the connectors on, ready to roll. And so I'll skip past the servos for now because they didn't come with the kit. The last thing, in fact, oh no, I'm past everything that you get. So that's what you get with the kit. Now what I've done is I've just to be clear, those wires, each one of those, they come out of the box with the kit, with the connector, and you just plug them into the relevant ports on the flight controller on the PixRacer. It's really simple and straightforward, nothing complicated. So just plug in the buzzer into the buzzer switch, plug in the power into the power socket, plug in the GPS into the GPS, plug the Wi-Fi into those 4 pins, 4 rows of 8 pins, total of 8 pins on the top, and Bob's your uncle. And you don't even have to plug that in order to do the flashing and the firmware and that kind of thing. All you need for that is to plug in your USB cable to the computer. Like I said, that's a different video. This one is about firing it up and getting it to work. So what do we need to do that? Well, we've got a plane, so what we need to have is some servos to drive the control surfaces. So I've got a rudder, aileron, and elevator servo here, just to simulate. Some little 3.7 gram digital servos. I really like digital servos. So I've plugged those in, and what I have here is a standard AETR configuration of the pins, which is what Mission Planner seems to expect. The standard configuration of ArduPlane apparently is for the servo 1, which the pins count from the left, I guess. So from this end, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 pins, and I've used 4 of them, so there's 2 left for other purposes. That would be for driving servos or something like that, and the motor as well, because the throttle of the motor needs to be controlled from these pins here. So ailerons, and I've connected a servo to the ailerons. That could be a splitter going to 2 separate aileron servos out in the wings or whatever, or a single aileron servo in the middle of the plane with a bell crank, etc. No problem. Next, elevator. So the second row is number 2, so it's 1, 2. 2 is elevator. Servo number 2, configured in the parameters in ArduPlane, expects it to be elevator, and it matches to the elevator stick on your transmitter. The last one, rudder. So I skipped over throttle. Throttle is number 3. So the throttle needs to be the wire connecting your ESC and the motor. This one's quite important because this is where your power comes from to drive those components. This little set of connectors on this side of the plane has a separate power circuit to the rest. So this power that comes into the flight controller from the power module, that drives everything inside here. It powers the GPS, the buzzer, and it will run your receiver, because that comes out here. So the receiver gets power if the flight controller is powered by the power module. But the servos and the motor, but more importantly the servos, will not get power unless the ESC is powered and giving power to this little sub-circuit here that that is independent of that other circuit. And so in a sense, it seems a little bit like I'm overcomplicating things, but it's really important, because if you think you're just going to plug in the flight controller to the power, which is what happened to me. Literally, I did that. I plugged in the power, the flight controller, all the lights came on, the receiver came on, the GPS came on, everything seemed great. Servos didn't work, motor didn't work. What's going on? Oh my God. And then I realized, after some research, Painless 360 in particular was incredibly helpful. His videos have a lot of information in them, although you have to dig through a bit to find the relevant little gems of information. But the simple piece of information you need is that this power module doesn't give you power to this little part of the flight controller here where you would connect your servos and your motor. So that was like another revelation as part of the process of figuring this out. Fired everything up, all the lights, everything's great. Servos don't work. Why? They needed power. So what I actually do to make that happen is I simply connect, for test purposes, I connect my ESC to a battery. And that will give power to this. Nothing's happening right now because there's no signal coming from the flight controller, but now that's ready to work. What you would normally do is connect the battery power to here, have this connected to the ESC, so when you plug the battery in, you will get power to the flight controller, and independently, you'll get power to the motor, ESC, and the servos. So I'll probably explain that clearly enough. Ask questions if it's not clear. It was quite confusing to understand that and figure out why it wasn't working. Now that it does work, you know, it's as simple as, well, plug this in here and plug in the ESC, and this is why. All right, so the last part of the equation is arming. So arming is a multi-step process, and also setting your flight mode. So the last thing that happened, I fired everything up, things seemed to work, and then still for some reason, even though I had the servos working, the motor wouldn't work. And that was where the last part of the equation came in, was I needed to have this switch powered on. So now I have everything that I need. This is the magic potion. This is the secret information. This is what you need. This setup here would actually be able to fly a plane. Of course, I'm going to prove that. I'll be putting this into a Bixler 2 that I've got, that I'm going to test this out with. But I thought it'd be great to show you this, because it really breaks everything out so you can see exactly what's going on. So, step one, I'm going to power on the whole kit and caboodle here. So we get flashing blue light on our flight controller. We've got a single red light here. I don't know if you heard it, but there's a couple of little noises going on. It's singing to us. The flight controller is making some noises here, and we are good to go. That flashing blue light means this is ready to arm, and that flashing red light means that until I press and hold that button, you get a solid red light. Arming won't even help, because this safety switch will prevent anything from working until you have everything safe. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is show you how, and I'm recording this on the computer screen, so I'll pop this up now and show you what's happening, what happens on the computer screen. So here we go. I've got Mission Planner running on my Mac, and all I need to do is hit this connect button. Whoops, that's not all I have to do. What I have to do is connect to the PixRacer SSID on the Wi-Fi. So if I connect to PixRacer on the Wi-Fi, actually I don't need to do anything else, because what will happen is, and this is kind of magic, Mission Planner will figure out automatically once that connects. Notice it's still trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. Wow, Mission Planner figured out. The Wi-Fi connected, Mission Planner fires up and says, oh, I've got a flight controller here called PixRacer. I'm going to connect to it. It knows. And so as you can see, it's basically downloading everything, the current setup from the flight controller. It only takes a few seconds. It's not really a long time to wait. All right, so we have now a ground station connected to the flight controller via Wi-Fi. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our actions, and we're going to make sure, and this was one of the next important thing that happened when I was trying to test this. So this is a test rig. I'm not ready to fly yet. I don't want to set up a mission with waypoints and all of that kind of thing. I just want to make sure that my components are connected properly and they work. Well, in order to make that happen, you need to do a couple of things. The first, because right now I move the controls, nothing happens, right? It won't, the servos don't move, the motor won't go, nothing happens, right? The first thing I need to do is physically arm it with that safety button. The second thing I need to do is now, I don't know if you heard that, but that was the arm buzz on the flight controller. So I pressed the arm button on Mission Planner and it armed the flight controller, and the disarmed red warning sign on the controller is gone. So now I actually have controls. Elevator is working. Ailerons are working. Oh, look at that. Ailerons are working, and the ailerons turn a little harder. There's more throw in the ailerons than there is in the rudder. I wonder what's going on with that. And then my rudder turns. There's definitely more I need to learn, but what I do know right now is if I want to basically have full control of the hardware here, I need to switch. As you can see, I just did that on the screen. But you should have seen that on the screen here, but basically what I did was I went into this drop down manual mode, and then I say set mode. So I set that to manual mode. Now I have elevator, and this is interesting. On manual mode, I have ailerons, but I don't have a rudder mix. So that auto mode that was there before was what was giving me my mix of ailerons and rudder. Now I just have ailerons. And I have a rudder that moves by itself. And let's see what happens with the motor. Well, look at that. We have a working motor. So this rig works. There it is. We have a complete and fully functional PixRacer R15 ArduPlane remote control plane rig connected with the FlySky FS-X6B receiver via PPM. This receiver also has iBus. The connector here, I might just quickly explain that one. The connector here with PPM out is a 3-wire connector, and what needed to happen in order to connect PPM to the receiver, this is explained very clearly on the PixRacer website. I only needed 3 wires, black for ground, red for power, and white for signal, and I basically ran those through to pin for pin, black to black, red to red, yellow to yellow, white to yellow, then yellow to yellow, black to black. Basically, see, I put these additional cables in here because the connectors on both ends were female. So I just got a male-to-male piece of wire that I already had to connect that in, so I could do that without soldering. I could either change the connectors on one end of those wires or get a much smaller male-to-male adapter. I guess that would be the simplest way, so I can just plug this in directly. But that's your receiver is driving all of those channels through these, actually through this one single signal wire, this yellow wire here that comes out of here on this PPM port on the FS-X6B. This cable here, this output cable, came with the receiver, and I guess arguably that still complies with my rule of no soldering, because I didn't have to solder it, although I got it as a component that wasn't part of the PixRacer setup itself. It was part of the receiver. So if I took this GPS outside, I would get a GPS fix from it. I've tested that, but I'm in a concrete building right now, so I can't actually receive any GPS signal where I am. But there we go. There we have it. Everything works. Elevator, ailerons, rudder, motor. There it is. It works. I will figure out how what happens when I do fly-by-wire A, fly-by-wire B. How do I get my motor to work once I connect into the Bixler, a larger machine, a proper ESC, a larger motor, all of those kinds of things. But I can basically just transplant this whole octopus of wires and put it into my plane, and I know that everything will work because, well, there it is. It works. I'm really, really happy with that. Okay, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, because there'll be more, and welcome back next time to Tim the Plane Man's Plane Time, where we'll explore more about the Pixracer ArduPlane as I learn more about this fascinating aspect of radio control flying. Thanks everyone, bye for now.